Hi, everyone. Harry here to give you the summary of what's going on with Kilmar Abrego-Garcia. It is a tangled web, to say the least, involving two separate systems of justice, two separate courts, two different kinds of authority, and how they intersect and what's going to happen. So, this afternoon, there was a hearing in the court of Judge Paula Zinnes. You remember her. She is the one who oversaw Abrego Garcia's case, put the administration's feet to the fire until they returned him to the States, but did it with that clever little maneuver of subjecting him to criminal charges, which to date, they're singing a different tune now, but they had talked about how important it is, how serious the charges were, how critical for U.S. interests it is to convict him of those, have him serve a sentence, and then and only then deport him. Well, it's looking a little different now since Abrego Garcia won a bail motion, or really the U.S. lost the bail motion down in Tennessee, trying to keep him in jail until his criminal trial ensues. And in fact, they not only lost the U.S., but took it on the chin from the magistrate judge there, who said that a lot of your evidence looks really thin, weak, based on hearsay. Really, all you have, and this is how it looked to me, and what I wrote at the time, is that one stop in July of 2022, and you've tried to build a whole big criminal conspiracy around it. Okay, so we're going to release him. And that holding was yesterday, and she set, the magistrate judge, conditions of release. Abrego Garcia to live with his brother, etc., and to be available for trial. And there are different things, but the main thing is he would be free and at liberty for the first time, since he was just, surprisingly to him and illegally, grabbed by the United States in Maryland and shipped down to Louisiana and then to El Salvador. Okay. So meanwhile, the magistrate judge says, I can tell the United States that they can't keep you, and that effectively releases you as far as the criminal charges go. I cannot just give an order to the immigration authorities, which is a whole separate thing in body of law, saying do not deport him. That is a civil matter and a whole different thing. The DOJ attorney is there saying it's the same. We could try to coordinate with them, but we can't tell them what to do. Now, based on their public statements and just the general treatment of Abrego Garcia, which seems to be governed by the principle, how can we screw him the worst? They're really thinking and worried that even though the U.S. had been so eager to try him on these criminal charges, that instead they will just deport him. And lo and behold, that is what they've now represented. We are going to deport him to a third country. So not El Salvador, where they mistakenly deported him in the first place, and there was an order not to go, but some third country. So we're starting that whole process up. So in Tennessee, the magistrate said, I can say you can't keep him in on the criminal charges. That's all I can say. So that's why he's gone to where his habeas corpus, that's actually a civil action, is filed in Maryland with Judge Zinnes, and said, order them not to deport me, order them to just basically keep me around until my criminal trial. I'll go through that process, as they said. You know, it is a fairly bare bones motion, because the truth is it's very unclear what power even a habeas judge would have to say you may not deport him. She can say, she has said, and she will repeat, you can't do it without due process. You have to be sure of a notice, an opportunity to be heard. But I don't see her basis for otherwise intervening. In the meantime, they have this hearing by telephone. And she asked the DOJ, what are your plans, man? And the DOJ said, I don't know. We're back to that. But we won't deport him imminently. What does that mean exactly? I don't know, basically. And we won't violate any court orders, which is pretty big since they've been so squirrely and even, I would say, disobedient on the rulings in the case to date. So she says, I have in front of me this motion from Abrego-Garcia to give an emergency order saying you can't deport him. I will set a briefing schedule on that, and she has a fairly quick one, and the motion has to be filed by the 30th. That is to say, by next Monday, and then the U.S. has a couple days to answer, and a hearing is on July 7th. What happens if the U.S. moves before then to deport him? I don't think, absent further court order by Zinnes, anything. Now, she hasn't even ordered, but she may subsequently, don't do anything without telling me. As of now, I think once he's released on Friday, nothing stops them except their own representation that we're not going to do it super soon from grabbing him by the scruff of the neck and putting him on a bus or a plane and taking him to Louisiana and starting the whole nightmare again. And this, he is so tantalizing close to freedom, his wife, his children, including one with special needs and the like. So I think the state of play for now is the judge has said, I will hear and give a fast resolution of this emergency motion. But she could well say, I can order them to do it fairly and give process, but I don't have a basis for saying you can't deport him. And the basis that they've provided in their emergency motion, basically, oh, come on, it doesn't make sense to do it. And they've said they want the trial. And, it strikes me as more kind of equitable, let's be sensible kinds of arguments to a government that is anything but, rather than, law and cases. So when push comes to shove, I don't know what would be, at least as of now, the basis for Judge Zinnes to say you can't deport him. But she would have a basis for saying you've got to give him due process. So the immediate question, what happens if they move to do it now before the hearing scheduled for the 7th? And as of now, there's no, as I read the record, impediment or encumbrance on their doing it, but presumably everyone is very vigilant. Abrego-Garcia and his lawyers would get warnings right away. They would march into court and say, come on, at least put the brakes on this till the 7th. And there's no downside to the government. He's not going anywhere, et cetera. And the government will say, oh, it's terrible, we need to do it right away, et cetera. But there's the potential, it seems to me, that the judge says, until I decide this emergency motion, you can't send him anywhere. But in the long term, and the long term here is not so long, maybe a couple weeks, it's not clear to me, and I don't think Abrego-Garcia has made it clear to the court what her authority would be to simply say, you may not deport him, he must stay here and face the criminal charges, which among other things would have the downside that I think is really rueful, that the things they've done and the very highly touted by the Attorney General herself, criminal charges maybe are just a crock. And they've tried to fool the American people, and we won't actually, if they deport him right away and don't do the trial they've said is so important, we may never get to the bottom of it. So that's the sort of public stake that's there. So as of now, a motion is filed, a briefing schedule is ordered, a hearing is set for July 7th, but no orders in place saying U.S. don't do anything else. All we have is the U.S. representation. And I think come Saturday, Sunday, whatever, that no longer would apply. So what'll need to happen, and this part I think could well happen, is the judge gets the heads up, issues an order saying don't do it at least till the 7th. After that, though, what keeps Abrego-Garcia from being deported and the U.S. from having the authority to pursue it, as of now, I don't see it. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.